flourish.
Hello and welcome to the Flourish podcast. This is Ashley Brogan.
And I'm Ashley Schrock.
You did it.
I did.
How did it feel?
It felt pretty good.
That's good. Okay, we're in the Word. We are back again. No more taking a long Sabbath from doing the podcast. We're back at it, and we're so happy that you're here. Wow, what so much reading this week.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about it? We're no longer in the Torah
We said goodbye
or
to
the
Moses.
Pentateuch.
Wow.
Thank you. That's the
That
first
was really,
5 books
honestly,
of the
that
Bible.
was really impressive.
Thank you. The Pentateuch is the first 5 books.
Yeah.
I don't know what the difference is between the Torah and the Pentateuch.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a good thing to look into.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm going to Google it. Are the Torah and the Pentateuch the same thing? Yes.
Okay, so there's no difference.
There's no difference. Torah means instruction or teaching, and Pentateuch means 5.
So what is the book of Joshua and then the book of law? We're not there
What
yet.
is? Well, so we did the Pentateuch. There's maybe it's the law and the prophets or kings, and what's the
What comes after? We need like someone who just like looks stuff up.
and what is after the Torah? It's interesting. There
History
are
books.
lots the prophets, historical books. Oh, historical books, and then the prophets, right? Okay, so this is really interesting. We're in Joshua. What's really important is they're heading into the Promised Land. We have the crossing of the Jordan River.
We do.
Just to give everyone a little recap of where we are, right? The crossing of the Jordan River. We have the whole Jericho, Joshua and the big wall story. And then
And that's it.
there's things after that, I guess, But
we're done.
I think what happens when I get to Joshua is I'm mourning the end of Moses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm in the, there was just such a high with Moses.
Sure.
Right.
Well, we were just in the car and Ashley goes, I don't know. Like, I'm not really
don't have
excited.
much to say about
Which is really
Joshua.
sad because Joshua is like one of my favorite books.
I'm sorry. But I will
love
engage with you in the text for
Joshua.
sure.
But we said we were talking because sometimes we shouldn't talk about the podcast before the podcast
Yeah.
because there are things that we say where we went, we forget to say. But
Yes.
one thing we said was Joshua feels like a picture of our life
Yes.
after Christ, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's really interesting.
Right? It's an interesting way to approach it. I'm
Yep.
sure someone else has said it.
Because you said Moses is like a Jesus
He's
figure
like
of the
Jesus
Old
figure.
Testament.
And then Joshua shows us how we can live, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, Joshua's
It's fun to read. The guy whom my brother was named after.
Yes.
Joshua in the Bible.
There's a lot of Joshuas.
I think Joshua's fascinating. I do really like it. But I do think I'm usually slow to get into it.
You miss Moses.
I miss Moses.
Yeah, I
'Cause
understand.
It was just like a different time. Well, I think because it gets into all the battles and stuff like that.
It
and I think
does.
my brain just
Yeah.
I have a harder time with it. But there's lots of interesting things that happen.
Yes.
So my first notes begin in, hold on. Oh no, where did my notes go? Oh, they're there. Joshua 12. So do you have anything leading up to Joshua 12?
Wait a minute.
That's where my first note is.
Past
I know. That's why I'm asking you to go
Rahab.
first. Oh, I have something in Joshua 11 too.
Wait, are we skipping 1 through?
No.
Okay.
No, whatever you
Because
have, you
Rahab,
start. Go ahead.
You love the story of Rahab.
I do like the story of Rahab.
Where she hides them
Yep.
from the people, whoever
Yep.
her people are. I can't remember. And she says, will you save me?
Yep.
Because we are terrified of the Israelites.
Yes.
Which is it's interesting because it did remind me of when they send people into the land.
Yeah.
And they come back and
spies.
the spies, and they come back and say, oh my gosh, there's giants. We shouldn't go in. It also reminded me of Gideon.
Yeah.
Where Gideon has this complex, which obviously we haven't gotten to Gideon. No. But where Gideon has this complex, like he's not capable enough.
Yeah.
And he has this idea about himself, but yet when he goes and hears the other army, he hears how afraid they are of Gideon.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of this where
That's
the Israelites go into another land and they
Yeah.
hear, oh my gosh, they're actually terrified of us.
Yes.
Like they know that there's a God on our side.
Yes.
And Rahab asks for mercy, essentially.
This is where Joshua learned from the mistake of Moses, I'd say, if you could
Yeah.
call it a mistake, where he sent in 12 people to spy on the land.
Yeah.
And this time Joshua sends 2.
Josh was like, how about less opinions?
It's the most optimistic attitude. And let's send those two into the land to scope it out.
Yeah.
So something that did stand out to me because now that you're talking about it, it's like, I didn't have notes from it, you know? But now that you're talking about it, I'm thinking about it. When they go to Rahab, they say to her, if you help us, by hiding us, or you help us, you can put a cord out your window. Your whole family that stays in here will be safe.
Yes.
Anyone who leaves, we can't guarantee their safety.
Yeah.
But how did they know, like, how did those two guys know that if they instructed her to do this, that she would be safe? Because the walls came down. So they had some sort of prophetic knowledge or something.
Right.
Unless there was something discussed beforehand.
I don't know.
Find somebody in the city who will help you. If you do, whatever.
I'm sorry. I'm reading.
Yeah. So I think I just wondered. I just kind of thought, did they hear from the Lord themselves?
Yeah, honestly.
Because they tell her you'll be safe, but the Lord said he would deliver the city into their hands.
Yeah.
And so how did they know that them doing that would cause her one spot to not topple over?
That's a great point. Or maybe they rescue them before.
Also, though, I do have a question.
Yes.
What were these two guys doing at a prostitute's house?
We know. Like, I think it's implied, you know.
What were they doing there? Were they having dinner?
They were hiding.
They were hiding.
It was the only place to hide.
How did they know to hide there? It is a question we may never have the answer to, but it says, and Rahab, a prostitute.
Rahab, a prostitute. Now, Rahab is not the one that ends up in the lineage of Jesus, right?
She is.
Okay.
She's one of the 4 women in the lineage of Jesus.
Yes.
Because we have Tamar, Rahab, Esther, and Bathsheba.
Okay.
Not 4 women, but the 4 women mentioned, I should say. There's obviously significantly more women.
You know, this story too, what stood out to me is when Rahab says why they were afraid of the Israelites.
Yeah.
She says, we heard about how he made a dry path for you in the Red Sea. We know how you took over Sihon and Og, like that they were mighty.
Yeah.
No wonder our hearts have melted in fear. No one has the courage to fight after hearing such things. For the Lord your God is the supreme God of the heavens above and the earth below. Which I think is interesting that she talks about courage, because this is the one thing the Lord tells Joshua over and over again.
Be strong and courageous.
Which is funny to me, because if a boss is giving you a project to do and he tells you 6 times to be strong and courageous, and you're like, well,
what the heck is going to happen?
I guess this is pretty tough.
I know.
You know, like at some point you go, I was feeling pretty good about it until you told me
the Lord knew how discouraging it could be.
And courageous 6 times. But yeah, the story of Rahab is wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I love that she saves them, and then she becomes I think she marries okay, hold on. She marries Salmon.
Okay.
Salmon, I think is what his name is. It's spelled Salmon. Salmon. She marries, I think can you type in who is Rahab's husband? Salmon.
Oh my gosh, hold on. It is Salmon.
Salmon, I think, is the great grandfather of Boaz.
They bore Boaz. That's their son.
Rahab is Boaz's mother.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Like, what do you do with that?
Who is a great grandfather of King David.
Is that not wild? Like, when you think about how I think when I look at the Bible with the history, I look at it like it's just such a long period of time.
Yeah.
Also, the Bible was so long ago. Yeah. Like, everything that happened was ages, 2,000 plus years ago was the last thing that happened there, a long time ago. And you look at it, and then when you get to the Old Testament, you're like, that's even further ago.
Sure.
The stories are, like, to me, so separated.
Yeah.
But I think one of my favorite revelations was this little, how close David was to, how close David was to this story.
True.
Like, very close.
Very close. Just a few generations.
Yeah, just a few generations. And so I think that something about Rahab's faith in that moment, the Lord saw and blessed it. And then she had
great
prosperous.
Now I'm reading all these like pieces of Rahab. She'd be interesting to continue.
Wouldn't
to
it be
study.
interesting?
Yeah.
I was thinking about, you know how The Chosen does like backstories of people.
Yeah.
It would be so interesting to hear a
see
backstory
Rahab.
of something like this, just to
For
see
sure.
what was her motivation, what led her to, you know, she was in a town that was like corrupt, and what led her, she was living in
Right.
she was a prostitute.
Right.
So what happened in her life that caused her to hear the stories of what was happening
Yeah.
and caused her to have faith?
Totally.
You know, I don't know. I
Well,
think
and
it's really
recognize the
interesting.
Lord, because she says the sovereign Lord or
Yeah.
the supreme Lord, where she's recognizing whatever God is with this
Yeah.
group.
And her faith and bravery saved her
Yeah.
whole family,
Our whole family.
which is
Oh,
amazing.
it's such a beautiful story.
It is a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that the Lord will use
Anybody. Really.
anybody. You know, like here he is using a woman
Yeah.
of questionable life.
Very questionable. That's one way to put it.
Anyways, okay, what else is there?
Okay, well-
Joshua and the walls, the wall. Oh, wait. One good one is that when Joshua encounters the angel on the road.
Yes.
You know that story? When they're moving into Jericho?
Sure. I don't remember where it's at.
And I think he's told to take his sandals off because the place he's standing is holy ground.
Oh, wow.
Which is like Moses.
Yeah.
But that means that the angel was like, there was an angel there.
Sure.
He had an encounter with an angel. I just think these stories are really interesting.
They're really interesting.
And they're hidden in here amongst the battles and wars and tribes and
Yeah.
things.
I like when they take the ark
Okay, let's talk about
through the
it.
Jordan.
Yeah.
It's it's one of my favorite stories. I don't know. Maybe it's just because
When they part the sea. The ark remains in the river
Yeah. So he
while the
tells-
Israelites pass through.
Yes, he says, take the ark, and once their feet touch the water, the flow of water will be cut off from upstream. But the thing that stands out to me the most is that the water piles up like walls, which I think sometimes, like as a kid, you think, oh, he parted the Red Sea, so he just kind of like moved the water. But they say that the walls were feet and feet and feet tall, like they just piled up around them. And
What a terrifying sight.
yeah, like that. I feel like it makes it, I don't know why it makes it more miraculous to me when I think about it, but it makes it like, can you imagine? I just picture being there going, the Lord is parting the walls around me.
Yeah.
Like it makes it more majestic where
Yeah,
you're
totally.
like walking through Jello.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Where it's
Yes.
like, wow, this is surrounding me. But I like that part. But
It's
my
interesting because
favorite-
we have two different partings of the Red Sea.
Yes.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
Just before you move on to the next part. Moses, when he parted the Red Sea,
Yeah.
just had his staff and the sea parted.
Yeah.
In this instance, the ark has to stay in the river
Yes.
in order for everyone to pass through. What's the difference?
I don't know.
Is there significance to the difference?
Was
Because the
Moses'
Lord
staff
could just
in the ark?
Aaron's
Aaron's
but the
rod.
budding rod
I was
of
like,
Aaron.
someone's rod is in there.
But you know what? It was Aaron's staff.
It was Aaron's staff. Okay.
I think so. Right?
Sure.
Maybe that's what it was.
Whose staff? parted the Red
We're like
Sea?
Googling. We need a Googler while we talk. No, it was Moses. No,
Moses'
not
staff.
Moses. Hold on. Moses got I don't know. Either way, I just think it's interesting that the Lord, he did the same thing but different.
Different. And the Jordan is probably different than the Red Sea.
Yeah.
In some respects too.
Yeah. So what's the next part that stood out to you?
Yeah. Okay. So this is like one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite stories.
The Living Stones.
Yeah, it's the Living Stones.
How did I know?
Yeah, it's all about the Living Stones because we're the Living Stones
Yeah.
now, right? Like
Right.
we're building Christ Church, and this
Yeah.
is like what he's coming back for. But the research that I did on this was that so they all make it across, and he goes, "Wait, before we move on, we're gonna move stones here."
Yeah.
12 stones, so that when your children come back here, they're going to see these stones and go, this is where the Lord showed up, essentially, right?
Yeah.
But when I did research on this, because I went, every time they talk about the 12 stones, I go, oh, the 12 little stones? Like what?
Yeah.
But apparently there's this thought that these stones are huge,
Ginormous
stones
that were moved by giants.
that were moved maybe by
Maybe.
giants though, but people have done research to
Yeah.
go, oh, this took a lot of work to get these stones here.
Yeah.
But I love the stones because there's so much connection to Paul, where he talks about you being living stones being washed in the water of the word. And it's, to me, I think because if we picture Joshua's story as a picture of how we are to live
Yeah.
after the death and resurrection of Christ, I think it's a beautiful picture about building the church.
Yeah.
And who we are as a memorial to our children. And there's something about this story because he says, in the future, your children will ask, what do these stones mean? Then you can tell them this is where the Israelites crossed the Jordan on dry ground. Meaning, so he didn't just part it and build walls.
Yeah, it was dry.
The floor became dry. For the Lord your God dried up the river right before our eyes, and he kept it dry until you were all across, just as he did at the Red Sea when he dried it up until we had all crossed over. He did this so that all nations of the earth might know that the Lord's hand is powerful and that you might fear the Lord your God forever. Wow. Because this would have been a new crew of people. Yeah. They didn't see the parting, right? More than likely, these people were not there at the original.
A lot of them would have been new.
And yet he did it again.
Joshua did, though.
Joshua, yes. But yet he did it again for Joshua.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So there's just, I think throughout this story and as we continue on without Moses, you start to see things that just speak to the New Testament too. Yeah. There's like a lot of connections.
There's so many connections.
Yeah, and generational. Yeah. Because Joshua, I think it was handed off so well to Joshua that now Joshua carries that in his DNA, where he's like, we're going to live for the next generation. Running. He did. He did. And I think that's in large part to how Moses handed it off.
Yeah.
Which is how Joshua 1 starts, where Moses lays his hands on Joshua and blesses him.
Yeah.
Which we've been talking about blessing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've been talking. See, we should not talk outside of the podcast.
No, we should have had Steve on this too. We should phone him.
Because we were talking about blessing.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the blessing for a moment?
Yeah, I think it's great.
Okay. Here's the deal about blessing. So I called my dad this morning because I was listening to the reading for this week. And, you know, when it's talking about the allotment of land or the space or whatever for all the tribes, you constantly hear an allotment of land was given to the half tribe of Manasseh. So then I go, I'll be honest, I've been wondering this whole time what the half tribe of Manasseh means. And I never just think to Google it. Like I don't, why do I hear it and then I go.
Because it's interesting. It's a half. It's not like the whole tribe.
It's not the whole tribe. It's just the half tribe of Manasseh. And so while I was getting the kids ready for school today, I was like, I'm just going to call my dad. Yeah. So I called my dad and I said, why do we always hear about the half tribe of Manasseh? So we started talking about it. And while I was talking to my dad about it, what do I know about Manasseh? I know that he's Joseph's son.
Right.
Which then made me go, why is there no tribe of Joseph?
Right.
Because you hear about the tribe of Dan, Gad, I don't even know what they are, Judah, Levi, all the tribes, Simeon.
Yeah.
But I never hear about the tribe of Joseph. But Joseph was a very significant biblical not character. Shout out to you, Eb. Just so everyone knows, I try very hard not to call them characters because I understand they're real human beings.
Real people.
But I don't really know what else to call them. You know, like he was a very significant figure, historical figure in scripture. He was very significant. And so my dad kind of paused and was like, I guess I've never really thought either about what happened to the half tribe of, or to what happened to Joseph. And so we did a deep dive on using the internet, trying to figure it out. And a lot of it kind of comes back to a blessing. Yeah. So when Joseph went to his father and wanted him to bless his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, then he blessed them and gave them it's like a divine blessing where he double portion blessings, but he gives them the allotment of the tribe of Israel. Yeah. And Joseph, it's like Joseph's tribe was these two.
Which is wild.
I know. And then they break off, and then that's where we get the half tribe of Manasseh. Yeah. But it led us to talking a lot about blessing. My dad's been on a kick.
He's on a blessing kick.
Which when you told me that, I was like, has he talked about it? And then I realized you guys had a conversation about it. We had a conversation,
and I can't stop thinking about it because I think it ties because we've talked about blessing. Like I started going through my notes when we've talked about the podcast, and we've always been tied up on, wow, blessing is really important, and it's so important and important enough people have stolen for it.
Yeah.
They have lied about it. And I think the Lord is starting to connect the prophetic now, which we started talking about.
People don't kill for a prophetic word.
They don't.
But they did
They would kill
steal
for a
for
blessing.
blessing.
But there's something about a blessing that feels prophetic. And
Yeah.
you and I have been discussing, I feel like, a lot over the last 2 years.
Bring back
we've
the
talked
blessing.
about retiring from the prophetic. We've talked about, we feel that the Lord is shifting what the prophetic is.
Yep.
And I even said today, I said it almost just feels like a maturing. Like
Yeah.
the church is maturing in the prophetic.
Yeah.
Where we got really excited about it because we love that the Lord speaks to us.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to hear specific words like your sister's name and I don't know you. Right. Like that is really fun.
Yeah.
But I think the Lord is maturing us in almost seeing that a blessing is actually, while maybe broader, might actually be a more mature version of the prophetic where we're speaking to a preferred future.
Also, like, we need to be taking blessings seriously. Because you see it all through scripture that how important blessings are and how valued they are. And we joke all the time about bringing back the blessing.
Yeah.
Like we need to bring back. My dad said that his father blessed him and his brother.
Wow.
And he said they kind of like knelt before their dad and that he laid hands on them and blessed them, this whole thing. And I went, well, first of all, why have I never heard that story?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
for sure.
But I just thought it actually makes me a little uncomfortable in a sense. Like I couldn't imagine doing that.
Right.
But I go, there has to be something spiritually attached to it, though.
Yeah.
That there is something about being blessed.
You're speaking over somebody's
Yes.
life. And the reason we started talking was because of the woman I ran into at the store.
Yes.
So there was this instance where there was someone praying for somebody at the drug mart. We
Yes.
never go to. We never go
Yeah.
because I don't like it. I don't like
Yeah.
the drug mart by our house. But there was a woman, she's praying for somebody, and we went, "Oh, that's nice." Like we kind of like walked.
how
Well, that's so
interesting.
lovely. Like you don't see
Yeah.
people praying for each other very often. And then she was just not praying very nice things. We walked by again, and it was like, oh yuck,
Yeah.
demons and curses, and I just felt very like, okay, I'm gonna jump in
I'm so
because
proud
I
of you
just
for
felt
doing that.
I was like, we can't leave this woman this way,
Right.
But really all I did was speak a blessing over her because I just felt like telling her the Lord was after her. Like obviously he's after you. And anyways, your dad had said it is like a blessing is marking people.
Yeah.
It's like planting a seed. It's somehow giving them, I don't know, like a target.
Yeah.
I won't steal his picture because it's a really good one, and I'm sure he's going to preach on it. But there's something about blessing, and I think the Lord is in this season. There's something about prayer and blessing that He's resurrecting in the church right now.
Yeah, I want my dad to bring back his weekly blessings that he used to do all the time.
Yes,
where he would bless everybody before they would leave church, and I go, let's just bring that
it's a
back.
great way.
But I think too, it's like us putting a value on it ourselves. You know what I mean? Like it's not just like, oh, I'm going to receive a blessing, But also though, like I want to see that there's value to the blessing because maybe a blessing is ineffective if you're not
That's true.
receptive of it. If
That's
that makes
true.
sense,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
It's kind of like a seed that falls on foul ground, right? Where it's like,
well, like Esau showed contempt for his blessing.
that's true.
And and Jacob was earnest about it, so much so that he was willing to lie and steal to get it.
Totally.
So there's something about valuing, and Jacob was blessed because of it, even though he was being sneak.
Yeah.
He had to wrestle with God later, but
Broke it.
yeah. Anyways, so
that was
that's a
random.
whole tangent about blessing. Do you have anything else in Joshua up to 11? If you do.
No, just the 12 stones carrying the ark.
The stones are so good. I wish that you guys could hear Ashley's sermon on the living stones because it was fire.
Living stones.
It
Where are we
was
at?
fire.
Joshua 11?
Yeah.
I think I read it.
So,
Are you sure that's not next week?
no, it's this week.
Mm.
Joshua
I'm
11.
ready.
The only thing is, I guess I don't have anything on 11. It's really 12. It's 12.
Okay.
So there's this whole story about Joshua going to battle with the Amorites
Okay.
on the day, and it starts with, on the day the Lord gave the Israelites victory over the Amorites, Joshua prayed. It's just a sign and wonder.
Okay.
Okay. Joshua prays to the Lord and says, let the sun stand still over
Ooh.
Gibeon and the moon over the valley of Aijalon. So the sun stood still and the moon stayed in place until the nation of Israel had defeated its enemies. How long was this time period?
I don't know.
Was it all night long? Did the Amorites see it and go, what the heck
What's
is
going
happening?
on? Yeah.
It was like darkness to them, but brightness to Joshua. And it was, and then it says, is this event hold on. It says, is this event not recorded in the book of Jashar? Now, I only just want to bring this up because very often when I'm reading scripture, it says this is all recorded in the book of Kings.
Sure.
Or this has been recorded in the book of Enoch.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Where are these books?
Jashar. I feel like I looked up this one.
I did.
Did you? And it's one that they were like, nah, it doesn't.
Well, they don't have the original book. There have been a lot of forgeries that were people tried to make the book, you know.
And it doesn't really line up historically.
Obviously not part of our canonical Bible. But I just think, like, when this was written, what was the book and what did it what else was in there?
Jashar.
It's like Jafar. But like, what else is in the book? You know, like what happened to these books? When it says this was recorded in the book of Kings, it doesn't mean the Kings we have in the Bible, is there another book of Kings?
That's wild.
What happened to all these books? Where did they go? Will we ever know? And obviously the Lord didn't seem it.
You think there's a library in heaven?
Of all of the books, history books written about.
I don't know.
Maybe.
That'd be kind of cool.
That would be really cool. Anyways, that was just a fun little tidbit. I don't know.
That was a good one.
There's not. I didn't have a lot from Joshua this week, though. So if you have more to say.
No, I got nothing. Do we want to talk about the New Testament?
Speak now or well, first of all, I want to talk about Psalms.
Oh,
because that's
Psalms?
Old Testament. Yep.
Okay.
I don't have a lot in Psalms, but Psalms, they have this moment where David is crying out to the Lord, right? And he's talking about his friends that aren't really his friends.
Okay.
Right? And so he says, they visit me as if they were my friends. This is in Psalm 41.
Thank you.
They visit me as if they were my friends, but all the while they gather gossip.
Ugh.
So the people who are coming to King are just sitting there for the gossip they can spread.
For the tea.
Instead of being his friend.
They want the tea.
I don't know why. It just, wow. I sat there and went, ugh. And then when they leave, they spread the gossip anywhere. Right? Could you imagine being King David? They're in the moment. He's sick and they come. But he says, they all hate me. They whisper about me and Lord, don't turn against me. But then he says, Lord, have mercy on me. Make me well again so I can pay them back. Is it appropriate to pray for revenge?
Help me, make me strong so I can beat them up.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. It feels like a prayer my son would pray for sure.
Like, doesn't sometimes you read the Bible and there are things that are said where you go, is it okay to do this? Like,
apparently it was okay
King
for
David was a man after God's own heart, and he's here going, Lord, help me to get better so I can pay them back. I just think that's wild.
That's
I think
funny.
it's like,
Preserve him and keep him alive. Wow.
yes, so I can pay them back. I just wondered, like, is that something that's appropriate depending on the circumstances?
Well, David was a very honest person.
Help me pay them back, Lord.
I'm going to start praying that right before communion.
Help me pay them back, Lord.
I'm kidding.
I just think that was funny.
That was a good one.
So in the New Testament, this week was a struggle for me to get lots of what?
No, yeah, keep going. I just saw that I wrote down Nicodemus's name, and I wanted your
Where
thoughts
was
on
it?
Nicodemus in John 19. I'm trying to see if I highlighted it. It says Nicodemus helped bury Jesus with 75 pounds of perfumed ointment. And all of my visions of Nicodemus right now are from The Chosen. But that, I don't know why it really...
Have you watched The Chosen yet?
Not the most recent one, no.
Oh my God.
I haven't had time.
Oh my gosh.
See,
but
the
that
thing
one
is, made me emotional because of how The Chosen portrayed Nicodemus too, where you're like, wow, he went and buried him.
You know what's interesting is that the Pharisees were the one that sought to have him killed. Okay. And it's two Pharisees, because I think Joseph of Arimathea might have been a Pharisee. Okay. But Nicodemus surely was a Pharisee, helped bury Jesus. Yeah. And I just think...
Like, I wonder, when I read it, I went, it's that part that grieves you where you go, oh, this guy never fully got on board. Like, I wonder what that felt like to bury him. Yeah. Did he think he was going to rise again? Was he going, oh man, this guy wasn't who he said he was? Does
I don't
Nicodemus
know.
recognize him when he resurrects? Does he ever see
Is he
him
a part
again?
of it?
Is he a part
Yeah.
of it? Does he miss it?
I mean,
so many questions.
I mean, Nicodemus did have revelation of who Jesus was from their conversation that they had. And so I don't know. I think the whole thing is interesting. I love how the Chosen portrays it. I think it's really fascinating to see it. I think that's something that makes it fun reading these stories is you start putting like faces to the characters and you know, like you do have to keep separate what is made up and what is reality, of course. But
Nicodemus
I don't know, it's interesting.
leave. He couldn't leave everything, right?
I also wonder where was Nicodemus during
the crucifixion?
Sorry. I just coughed right into the microphone. Where was he during the whole thing?
I don't know.
Like, was he there? Was he in a different part and he didn't hear about it until it was happening and then he came and
by that time
was he trying to? I don't know. It's really interesting. I do love how the Chosen portrays it. If you haven't seen the recent episodes, you have to go see them because wow.
But I wonder what was going through his mind.
I know. That's a great question.
I had a revelation of this man. I chose not to follow him, but here I am burying him.
Yeah.
If he had a revelation of who he was, did he have the revelation that he would rise again? And just all of that, because I think about it, how it applies to us today. And I go, there are many people who have heard the story of Jesus, has accepted who he was, but haven't lived. Nicodemus is the person who knows that Jesus is real, but doesn't walk with him daily.
Yeah.
Like that's how I feel, where I go, you recognize and you accept that there is Jesus and there is God, but you don't walk with him daily.
Ooh.
And to bury him is, to me, it makes me wonder what it's like to come to the end of your life and not have walked with him.
Yeah.
You know,
can we talk for a second about that, about Jesus on the cross, Nicodemus and all that stuff? We are entering Holy Week and I'll be like my encounter with the Lord that I had 2 years ago, has greatly impacted how I view and approach Holy Week.
Yeah.
And we're right here on the brink of it. It's next week. If you need a place to go, you come here for Good Friday because we're going to really honor the Lord for an hour with a candlelight service. But it's something that has become much more holy to me and more real, I think, than it ever has been. But so in reading now the crucifixion of Jesus and in watching The Chosen recently, these are things that are really notable to me.
Yeah.
That the Lord died on the cross for us. I know that's so simple, but he did. He died on the cross for us. He gave up everything for us. And then the fact that the women were the ones that stayed with him.
100%.
Like Jesus had a brutal, I think they say the most brutal death you can die. And they were the ones who stood with him. They were there when he died on the cross. Yeah. Let's give credit to John because he was there too. But all of his closest friends scattered. Yeah. They weren't there. And the women stayed. And I just think women are often portrayed as more feeble, more, like, oh, we need to shield them. Back then it was like, oh, don't look, you look away from these things, whatever. But they were there. Yeah. And I just like, and Nicodemus had to have been there because he was the one that helped get Jesus off the cross. He had to. What did that conversation look like with Nicodemus and the other Pharisees?
I don't know.
Did they see him dressed in his Pharisee garb and see him getting Jesus off there? Like,
did he weep?
Did he weep?
Was he like, if he had a revelation of who he was and he's taking him off the cross? Yeah. Did he weep going, now he's dead?
Who was this Joseph of Arimathea guy? Where did he come from? He gave him his tomb to lay in. Like, especially with Nicodemus, he would have had knowledge of the prophecies and everything because he was a Pharisee. So
did he see the veil torn?
Did he? Yeah. I mean, there's just so many questions.
I don't know. Well, we talked about Mary. Yeah. I think maybe it was a little bit of last week into this week. Yeah. But where I think I called you, I think it was in Target. And I was like, did you read the part about Mary where Jesus comes to her and says, she's weeping at the tomb. And he's like, Mary, what are you like? What are you looking for? Yeah. And she doesn't know it's him at first. She thinks he's the gardener. Yeah. And she's like, I don't know where they've taken his body. Yeah. And he then says Mary, and she has a revelation that it's him. Yeah. And I asked you, I said, do you think she didn't know that he was going to rise again? And so when she sat there at the tomb, she went, someone has taken his body. In her mind, she's not thinking that he's risen. Yeah. And then Jesus says to her, I came to you before I went to my Father. So I think I've always pictured it like, so he goes down to hell, he defeats Satan, he comes back to the earth before he ascends to heaven, right? Like, I'm coming to you
Yeah.
before I even go to my Father.
Yes.
And I just think the story of Mary is just like, it's always been one of my favorites because she's so desperate for him.
Yeah.
She's desperate, so desperate that
he
she's
appeared
at
to
the
her
tomb.
first.
Why was she at the tomb? Why was she looking
They were
for him?
taking the what were they taking? Perfumes or something.
Right, to dress
To
the body.
dress the body. I don't know.
And I think what struck me was that she wasn't, it didn't strike her that he would rise.
Yes.
Like, I don't think she had that revelation yet.
Well, I think too, Jesus very clearly says it. You watch it
Over and
depicted in
over.
The Chosen, but you read it in scripture as
Yes.
well. Because you read it and you go, how did, like, he says it so
I will rise in
plainly.
3 days.
But
like,
what's really wonderful
yes.
about watching it in The Chosen is he says it really plainly in The Chosen too. But you can see they're like,
I don't understand.
like, wait, who, like when he says the Son of Man
Right.
will die and be delivered to his enemies, die and rise again in
Right.
3 days. He called himself the Son of Man. He's the
Right.
Son of Man. They know he's the Son of Man. They said, I know you're the Son of Man.
Right.
And so he says, the Son of Man will do this. And they all look at him and go,
Who's the Son of Man?
I thought you were the Son of
I
Man.
know.
Like, it's almost like they're, and I'm wondering if
Yeah.
there was a part of it that the Lord was like, because the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, if there was like a, certain things needed to be realized at certain times.
Certain times. And the fact that Mary looked Jesus in the face, she knew his face well. She's
Yeah.
walked with him. He's now come back. His face is
Yeah.
obviously changed.
Yeah.
But the moment he says her name, Mary,
Yeah.
and then she recognizes him, is incredibly
That's
beautiful.
amazing. Yeah.
Because I'm trying to remember the first time they met. Is there something about him calling her name?
I don't know.
Don't they think she was the woman at the well? Or that she was one of the...
oh shoot.
that she was the
Mary.
prostitute?
She was demonized. He healed her of her demons.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I
that
don't
in their meeting
remember.
in scripture,
But it made me go, I wonder what their first meeting was like, if we have record of it.
Yes.
If there's something about him calling her
it's
name.
really beautiful. It's beautiful that he chooses to appear to Mary first.
Yes.
I also wonder what those days were like for Jesus.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those days that he was in the tomb, but his spirit was getting those keys back.
Yeah.
What was that like? I hope one day when we get to heaven we can like watch a
real
video of what that
video.
time frame was
Yeah.
like, because he went into the earth.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
It's
Why
so-
didn't they recognize him?
I don't know.
Because none of them did. He appeared to multiple people.
Oh, Thomas?
He appears to the people on the road to Emmaus,
Yes.
and then he said, "Did not our hearts burn within us that we knew?" But it was like something about like they didn't know it was him.
Right. It's like you're blinded. I wonder if it's like that today, where we're blinded to certain things.
Oof, that's so powerful.
You know, you just don't. Maybe there's reasons he doesn't open our eyes until like the right time to
We need
understand
to pray
things. You know,
that we get our eyes opened. But wow, what a beautiful way to end this.
Beautiful.
That was a beautiful way to end this. Because we could go into Acts, which is so great. Cause
yeah.
it's,
We'll save it for next week.
We'll save it for next week.
Yeah.
We'll dig deeper into it. If you need a place to go Easter and you don't attend Bethel, Cleveland, I encourage you to come check it out. This is a great time to come for Holy Week, for Easter, Good Friday.
Come on
this
down.
Sunday is Palm Sunday.
Palm Sunday.
That's a big deal, a really big deal. And so we just want to encourage you to keep reading the Word. You're doing an awesome job. We're going to finish this year strong. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.